The night of the 98th Academy Awards was supposed to be unforgettable, and it was. Just not for the reasons anyone expected. The air inside the Dolby Theater shimmered with polished tuxedos, expensive perfume, and cameras clicking like a swarm of mechanical cicadas. Every A-lister was there, draped in couture and anticipation. But one name dominated the night before it even began: Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. For months, buzz had been building around his role in Iron Soul, a gritty psychological thriller that marked a sharp departure from his usual high-octane blockbusters. Gone were the explosions and slow-motion punches. Instead, he played a broken ex-boxer suffering from degenerative brain trauma, grappling with guilt and memory in a quiet Midwestern town. Critics were split. Some called it the performance of his career. Others said it felt forced, as if he was trying too hard to prove he could do serious. But the Academy? The Academy loved it at least, that's what they said. Jason Statham, on the other hand, had delivered something else entirely. Dust and Bone wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But his portrayal of a haunted war medic struggling to reintegrate into civilian life had quietly earned him the most glowing reviews of his entire career. Raw. Understated. Honest. For once, Jason wasn't breaking necks, he was breaking hearts. So when the envelope was finally opened on that velvet-draped stage, the world held its breath, and the Oscar goes to Dwayne Johnson. The applause came fast. But not loud. Not full. There was hesitation, the kind you can't hear on TV, but you can feel if you're in the room. Some clapped politely. Others glanced sideways. A few barely moved. Statham nodded once from his seat. No smirk. No protest. Just stillness. Dwayne took the stage, flashing that signature smile, the one that had sold billions in box office and merchandise. He thanked his wife. His director. The Academy. This means more than I can say, he added, voice trembling just the right amount. But backstage, something didn't sit right. Statham's team felt at first a shift in the air. Whispers. A lighting technician who mouthed, "That's not right." An anonymous crew member who walked past Jason's publicist and muttered, "It was supposed to be you." No one had proof. Just a strange, echoing doubt. For days after the ceremony, the internet flared with speculation. Film forums lit up. Critics started backpedaling. Was Dwayne really the best? Did Jason Statham get robbed? Even former Oscar winners weighed in. One actress tweeted, "In this industry, some wins are earned. Some are arranged." But it was Jason's team who made the first move. Behind closed doors, they started asking questions. Quietly. Carefully. Not to the press, not yet. First to insiders. Journalists. Academy contacts. Anyone who might know more. They didn't accuse. They investigated. Weeks passed. Then months. First, they found nothing, just red carpets and rehearsed statements. But then someone cracked. A former PR contractor who had worked on the Oscars digital campaign reached out. No names, just an encrypted email, "You're right to ask. Follow the money." It was the breadcrumb they needed. Jason's team hired a third-party audit firm off the books, completely private. The investigation spread like roots underground. It didn't take long before patterns emerged. Unusual payments. Ghost consulting firms. Advisory fees that didn't trace back to any real advisors. Then came the document that it was a single internal memo, buried in the back end of a marketing ledger. The language was vague. But not vague enough. It mentioned a performance enhancement package tied to nominee DJ. It referenced media push agreements, influencer payments, and a 7-figure expedited recognition fund. In plain English, it was a payoff trail, and at the center of it Dwayne Johnson's team. The final confirmation came from a leaked audio recording, dated 2 weeks before the Oscars. In it, a low-level award strategist is heard saying, "We've got it locked. DJ's team made it worth their while. Just smile on the red carpet and let the rest happen." Jason Statham's publicist sat in silence after hearing it. "It's over," she finally said. "We need to go public." It began with a headline, not from a tabloid. Not from a gossip blog. But from the Hollywood Ledger, a publication known for playing it straight, for sticking to facts even when those facts shook the ground. Leaked memo suggests Oscar win was influenced by financial dealings. Source points to Dwayne Johnson's team. The article dropped on a Thursday morning, and by lunch it was everywhere. Outlets from Deadline to BBC picked it up within hours. The internet went into a frenzy. Twitter turned into a wildfire. Reddit sleuths began dissecting every public appearance, every whisper, every clipped sentence from award season interviews. Even memes couldn't keep up, they were drowned in shock and speculation. Jason Statham's team didn't release a formal statement. Not at first. They didn't need to. The documents, carefully vetted, time-stamped, undeniable, had been quietly shared with 4 major news networks under embargo. As soon as the story broke, synchronized coverage followed. A digital dossier appeared online, 43 pages of internal emails, banking transfers, and redacted interviews. It had a name, Project Gold Dust. And right there, on page 17, sat the smoking gun, a payment from a shell company labeled Citron Productions, to a consultant tied directly to the Academy's Awards Committee. 2 weeks before final voting closed, the consultant's private email was included. The subject line: DJ confirmation delivery secured. For years, Hollywood had whispered about Oscar lobbying. Gifts. Back-channel promises. But this wasn't about gift baskets or prestige ads, this was bribery. Dwayne Johnson's camp scrambled. His agent issued a rushed denial. Mr. Johnson had no knowledge of any unethical activity and has always conducted himself with integrity in this industry. But the statement rang hollow. Especially when an anonymous former Academy staffer came forward on live television. They didn't show their face. But their voice cracked. "We were told that the decision was final. But we hadn't voted yet. They told us the campaign was already greenlit to make history. That it would be good for the brand. Make history." Those words echoed like thunder through Hollywood. That it wasn't just about Dwayne anymore. It was about everyone else. Every actor who'd ever lost with dignity. Every crew member who believed awards meant something. Every fan who saw the Oscars as the highest stage. Jason Statham stayed silent for now, but his team made one move that changed everything. They released a video. It wasn't flashy. Just Jason, sitting in a plain chair, no background music, no edits. Just him, speaking directly into the camera. "When I heard my name wasn't called that night, I thought, that's the game. I've been in this business a long time. I've lost more than I've won. But I never thought I'd lose like that. This isn't about me getting a trophy. This is about whether the trophy means anything at all. If it doesn't, then maybe it's time we stop pretending." The video was viewed over 38 million times in the first 24 hours. That's when the flood began. Actors. Directors. Editors. Costume designers. People who'd stayed silent for years started sharing stories, some small, some heartbreaking. Stories of rigged nominations, promised wins, suspicious campaign contributions. But Dwayne's case wasn't an old rumor. It was real. It was now. Studios began to distance themselves. A major action franchise, one that had reportedly lined up Dwayne for a leading role, quietly dropped his name from casting announcements. A high-profile director posted a cryptic Instagram story: "Some people play heroes. Some just look the part." And then came the Academy. Under growing public pressure, they issued a formal review of the award. No flowery language. No fluff. Just a statement that sent chills across the industry: the Academy is opening an independent investigation into the 98th Annual Awards proceedings. The integrity of our process must be beyond question. The word integrity hung heavy. Dwayne Johnson went dark. No tweets. No posts. No public sightings. 4 weeks, nothing. His publicist declined all interview requests. His team issued a single press release claiming ongoing cooperation with investigators and a commitment to clarity. But clarity wasn't what people wanted, they wanted honesty. Behind the scenes, Dwayne's team tried to repair the damage. Meetings were held. Scripts were pulled. PR firms pitched redemption strategies. But something had shifted. The Rock, once Hollywood's unshakable giant, was now untouchable for all the wrong reasons. One insider from a major streaming platform put it bluntly in an off-record quote, "We can't sell sincerity off a man who bought a lie." And yet, the most powerful blow didn't come from Hollywood. It came from the public. One morning, a fan account posted a clip from Jason's Oscar-nominated film, Dust and Bone. The scene was quiet. Jason's character, sitting by a hospital bed, whispering apologies to a friend who couldn't hear him. The caption read, "He didn't need to act loud. He just needed to act true." It was shared over 500,000 times. The next day, a trending hashtag took over every platform, #Justice for Statham. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who had spent 2 decades punching, kicking, and crashing through explosions on screen, had stayed still, silent, and honest. And in doing so, hit harder than he ever had before. The Academy's final decision came 62 days after the scandal broke. By then, the damage was already done. Major film studios had quietly pulled Dwayne Johnson from upcoming projects. One action sequel already deep into pre-production replaced him with a lesser-known, up-and-coming actor whose only claim to fame was not being The Rock. Toy companies withdrew licensing agreements. Endorsement deals vanished. But the silence from Dwayne himself? That was louder than any headline. People had started to ask a different kind of question now. Not, did he cheat? That was settled in the public's mind. But why? Why would one of the most bankable, beloved figures in Hollywood risk it all? Pride? Pressure? Or something else? No one knew, until he finally reappeared. It was a private event. A fundraiser for a children's hospital. No cameras. No stage. Just a quiet room and a microphone that had clearly not been tested. The footage that leaked later was grainy, shot on someone's phone. But what Dwayne said was crystal clear: "I thought I had to prove something. That after all the muscles and explosions, I could finally be taken seriously. I wanted that statue so badly I stopped asking if I deserved it." There was no applause. Just the faint, awkward shuffle of people unsure whether to feel sympathy or disgust. The next day, the Academy made its statement public. Following an internal and independent review of voting procedures, campaign ethics, and fund tracing related to the 98th Academy Awards, the Academy Board has voted to revoke the Best Actor Oscar awarded to Mr. Dwayne Johnson for his performance in Iron Soul. The statement was clinical, restrained. But the implication was devastating. It had only happened once before in Oscar history, a revocation. And never for something this big. The statement went on, "Integrity in the arts matters. Recognition without fairness has no meaning. The Academy apologizes to its members, to audiences, and especially to Mr. Jason Statham." A press conference followed. Jason wasn't there. His team declined all interviews. But when reporters camped outside his London home for a reaction, he offered just one line: "I didn't want the Oscar back. I just wanted the truth out." That line struck harder than any punch he'd ever thrown on screen. The fallout for Dwayne was swift and unusually cold. For a man who had once been Hollywood's most lovable alpha, whose charisma sold everything from movies to energy drinks, there was no redemption arc waiting. No tearful daytime interview. No teary-eyed apology tour. Instead, there was nothing. Scripts stopped coming in. Phone calls dried up. Directors who once called him box office gold suddenly couldn't find space in their schedules. One insider at a major streaming studio described it like this: "It's not that we hate him now. It's that we just don't trust the brand anymore." And trust, in this industry, is everything. But while the world moved on, Dwayne didn't. Weeks after the Oscar was rescinded, he was spotted alone at a private gym he used to train in during his WWE days. No entourage. No manager. Just him and a stack of weights. A photo leaked online: The Rock, head down, alone on the bench. The caption: "No spotlight today." Meanwhile, Jason Statham quietly returned to work. He signed on to a low-budget British drama, no explosions, no helicopters, no slow-motion stunts. Just a story about a grieving father learning how to reconnect with his son. When asked why he chose something so different, he reportedly replied, "Because acting's not about looking tough. It's about telling the truth." That quote was later painted on the wall of an independent theatre in Manchester. Beneath it, a poster of Dust and Bone with a new line across the top, the Oscar performance they tried to bury. But the industry hadn't forgotten. And neither had the audience. Petitions began circulating. Award Jason Statham retroactively. Give it to the right man. Fans organized unofficial Statham Awards nights across cities, where people gathered to rewatch Dust and Bone and celebrate what they believed was true excellence. The Academy stayed silent on that front. Jason never campaigned for the award to be returned, and that's what made the public want it for him even more. But Dwayne, he disappeared. No red carpets. No premieres. No social media, until one day, quietly, an unsigned donation appeared on the funding board of a non-profit acting school in Harlem. The amount was large enough to fund scholarships for blind auditions, financial aid, and youth workshops for 3 years. The donor name read, "Just trying to do better." The school confirmed it came from an account linked to Dwayne Johnson's foundation. It didn't go viral. It didn't need to point. 6 months after the scandal, the Dolby Theatre stood quiet again, its red carpets rolled up, gold statues locked behind glass, and the world pretending things were back to normal. But something had changed. Not in the building. In the people. It started with the Academy's new initiative, the Integrity Panel, a permanent, independent watchdog group with full transparency, veto rights, and even fan-elected advisors. It was damage control, yes. But also the first meaningful change to Oscar rules in decades, and while Hollywood cleaned its wounds, Jason Statham returned to something he hadn't done in years, theatre.In London's West End. He took the stage in a minimalist play called Silence Between Stars. No explosions. No camera tricks. Just raw dialogue, long pauses, and lights that faded so gently the audience barely noticed when scenes ended. Reviews called it haunting, unexpected, a revelation. But when a reporter asked why he'd chosen something so understated after everything, Jason simply replied, "Because I wanted to earn it all over again." He didn't mention Dwayne. He didn't need to. His silence was not bitter, it was full, but Dwayne Johnson's story hadn't ended yet either. For months, he remained out of the public eye. No blockbusters. No franchise cameos. But he didn't vanish. Quietly, he launched a private mentorship program for young, first-time filmmakers from underserved backgrounds. No press releases. No branding. Just anonymous support through a new foundation. One of the first short films funded through the program. A 16-minute student project about a washed-up athlete trying to win back his daughter's respect, not with medals, but with honesty. It screened at Sundance under the name Second Take. The closing credits included one line, "Executive producer, DJ." When someone asked him if he'd ever act again, he gave a small smile, "Maybe. But this time, I'll let the story come first." And that was the shift, for both men. The trophy had stopped mattering. Jason Statham, once overlooked for his range, now headlined intimate films with emotional depth. His name, once synonymous with stunts, had become a symbol of integrity. He didn't win the Oscar back, but in the eyes of many, he won something better, respect that couldn't be bought or broken. Dwayne Johnson. He was no longer The Rock. Not really. Not in the way the world had known him. But in his quiet support of others, in choosing to build without being seen, he started becoming something else. Not a brand. Not a hero, just a man learning how to tell the truth, and in the end, maybe that's what the Oscar is supposed to mean. Not gold, not applause, but honesty. A performance that doesn't just impress, but reveals something real in a world of make-believe. 1 year later, on Oscar night, Jason wasn't in the audience. He was home, watching with his father and a cup of tea. When the host made a quiet reference to earning the moment, not buying it, the camera didn't cut to anyone. But social media did. someone tweeted a photo of Jason's performance in Dust and Bone, captioned simply, "Still the best. Always will be." It went viral, and Dwayne. He was spotted that same night in a small community theater in New Mexico, sitting in the back row, watching a group of teenagers perform a Shakespeare scene. No one approached him. No one asked for selfies. But one of the students, after curtain call, walked up and whispered, "Thanks for helping me tell my story." Dwayne just nodded. Sometimes, the spotlight doesn't return, sometimes, it doesn't need to, because when the applause fades, what you've built, who you've become, is what remains.